Good evening and welcome to the council meeting of November the 27th. This meeting tonight is being live streamed on the Town of Kemptville YouTube, and the updated package is on the Town of Kemptville website. I'd like to acknowledge that our work and the Town of Kemptville are located within the ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people, and that we are responsible and accountable to uphold the recommendations and process of truth and reconciliation. We are all treaty people. So just as a note for folks, this is our last council meeting of 2023. And I just wanted to make a note and say that we're a collective council and that we can be impactful as a collective council. And it's my hope that in tonight's meeting, we have some good, healthy debate and some meaningful discussions that will further the business of the town. So thank you for letting me say that, and we will get the meeting started. The meeting is called to order, and has everybody received their package? Is there anything or anyone around the table that has a conflict of interest? So we will be voting as we have before by electronic means. And I can look around and say that we have quorum. And we also have a full house in the gallery, which is really nice to see. We have been presented with a proposed agenda. And CAO, are there any changes to the agenda?
No, there are not.
Okay. Council, do you have any, okay, yes. Councillor York. Sorry.
Thank you. I would like to add an item under new business with council writing a letter to the federal government joining municipal and provincial governments across the country asking for a ceasefire in Palestine.
Okay, so for the purposes of the addition to the agenda, you would want to call it
Letter to federal government.
letter to federal government. And could I have somebody second that? Thank you, Councillor Zabian. Any discussion? Everyone in favor by raising your hands? Contrary minded? Motion carried. Councillor Zabian.
Thank you. I just have one item, Deputy Mayor. I'd like to have a discussion around the management letter regarding the audit, and if it's the will of council to do, if it's the will of council to do it in camera, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. So, with respect to the management letter, I'm not sure that we would have to do it in camera.
Okay.
I'm not sure that we would. So first I'm gonna ask for a seconder and then I'll ask for discussion. So a seconder on that.
I'll second it, but I have a question.
Okay. Can you put your light on, Councillor Maxwell, and then I'll go to the first one. Okay. Mayor Snow.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As the chair of the audit committee, I would request that letter be done in camera, as it contains information that affects how we do our business, and I'm going to say something that wasn't quite up to par.
Thank you, Mayor Snow. Having further discussion, go ahead, Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. What, I guess, I was looking for the intention of adding this, but in response to the question or what has been posed by the mayor, I would say that that letter is public information. It was delivered at a public meeting, of the audit committee, and therefore I see no reason to be going into in camera with it. If we made mistakes, then we own up to them. Thank you.
There is no letter to bring forward tonight, right? Yeah.
If I might, in establishing the agenda, you don't have to decide right now whether it's going to be dealt with in closed session or not. When it comes time to go into closed session, you need to specifically state what part of the MGA authorizes it to go in session, and at that point, mayor could be asked to be more specific, for example. So you can simply add it to your agenda, perhaps as the last item in new business, or tentatively under the in-camera part, and just turn your mind to it before you go in camera so you can identify it. It need not hold up the adoption of your agenda.
Thank you, Solicitor. So if it is the will of council, what we will do is we will put it under 9C,
D.
sorry, 9D. Yep, so we'll put that under
Oh, wait.
9.
Are you putting it, sorry, are you putting it in camera or under new business?
No, I was going to put it in camera,
Okay,
and then
sorry.
when we're in
Yep.
camera, if we need to go out of camera
Okay.
and discuss it, then we can go out of camera and discuss it.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor, I don't know if my light's still on.
It's really not, so just give me
Okay.
1 second here. Can you,
You want me to shut it off?
No, just,
okay, sorry, you go ahead.
Sorry, since I'm the one who brought that forward, I would, my ask would for it to be in a public session. And then at that point, when we get into discussing it, if we decide then that we want to take it in camera, I guess we have the option to do that then.
Okay. So we have had a motion, and we've had a seconder, and we've had any further discussion on this? Oh. Counselor Gerard.
No, I'm sorry, I went too soon.
Okay, that's
Sorry.
fine. No, that's okay. So maybe what I'll do is I'll have a raise of hands on this one for it to be added to the agenda as would be 6D CAO under new business. Could I have a show of hands who would like it under 6D, under new business? Okay, and contrary minded? Okay, the motion is carried. It will go in under 6D. And we will just title that management letter. Correct, Counselor Zabian? Thank you. Okay, so the agenda is approved. We will go into the approval of minutes. We have the minutes from October the 30th, 2023, and we have the public hearing minutes from October the 30th, 2023. And are there? Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
I didn't notice, I would like to either add something to the agenda or just a question for the interim CAO. I didn't notice that there was a CAO update. Could we get an update on the pallet? I've heard a lot of rumblings in the community, and maybe there is no update on the pallet housing project. But could we get one after reports are done?
I think normally, Counselor Gerard, after we do all the reports of council, the chair would ask the CAO if he or she has anything to report, and I will carry forward with that same
Okay,
action, if that's suitable.
okay, yep, thank you.
we need a motion to approve the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Okay, so. Okay, so we have 2 extra items added to the agenda. Could I have somebody move to approve the agenda as amended? Okay, second, Counselor Huntley. All in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried. So I I started with regards to the minutes, but Counselor Zabian, I see your name up there.
Yeah, just one quick change.
Okay, just let me put
Okay.
your mic on.
All right. We're good now?
Yes, go
Okay.
ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just one quick change on page 4. It says there was a point of order called against me for speaking inappropriately about staff. I didn't speak inappropriately about any staff member, so I just would like that struck, please. Thank you.
Deputy Clerk, can you make that adjustment, please? Are there any other changes to the minutes? Either October the 30th, public hearing minutes, or the council minutes for October the 30th? Counselor Maxwell, did you have something that you wanted to say? But your light's not on. Okay, there you go. You're gonna have to.
Okay,
Yeah.
I guess I have to hit it hard. Okay. Yes, under the reappointment of the audit committee members, there is in the discussion part, it indicates there was concern about a committee reappointing members without new members to apply. No, that's not it. Just a second now. Anyway, it says, council members hoped for future conflicts can be settled at committee. It wasn't council members that brought that up, it was myself, and nobody else chimed in. So I would say Councillor Maxwell hoped for future conflicts, that future conflicts can be settled at committee level.
Okay. That's fine. Counselor Maxwell, Deputy Clerk, can you make that change as well? Okay. Are there any other changes for either sets of minutes? Seeing no lights on, I would ask for a motion to approve both the council minutes for October 30th, 2023, and the public hearing minutes for October 2023. Counselor Huntley, second. Counselor York, all in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried. Next on the agenda is business arising from the minutes, and it doesn't look like we have any business arising from the minutes. So we will go right into reports and recommendations, and Councillor Gerard, I will turn your mic on as you are doing those for us tonight, and thank you for that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At the November 14th, 2023 meeting of Council Advisory Committee, Director Bell submitted his report outlining the need for a replacement for a forced main, the first of many infrastructure projects in the coming years. Council Advisory Committee recommends that council support the joint application with the Village of New Minas and the applicant and asset owner, the municipality of the County of Kings, for up to 50% funding through the Municipal Capital Growth Program, for the replacement of the force mains from the Justice Center to the end of the existing ductile iron pipes near Eves Hollow. I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Gerard. Do we have a seconder? Second, Councillor Zabian. Any discussion? So it's been moved and seconded that council support the joint application with New Minas and the County of Kings for up to 50% funding through the Municipal Capital Growth Program for the replacement of the force mains from the Justice Center to the end of the existing ductile pipes near Eves Hollow. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried.
At the November 14th, 2023 meeting of Council Advisory Committee, CAO Beddingfield presented the policy which formalizes the name change from Cornwallis Street to Bridge Street effective January the 8th, 2024. Council Advisory Committee recommends that council approve by policy that Cornwallis, being a street located in the town of Kentville, as shown in Schedule A, be renamed Bridge Street.
Could I have somebody move that motion as Thank you. Counselor York, Counselor Maxwell for the second. Is there any discussion? Counselor Gerard, your mic is already
Just a
on.
quick question. We haven't changed our mind on picking up the tab for people to change their addresses?
I will send that over to the CAO, and I know that the CAO and the deputy clerk had spoken on that before.
There was no direction by council for us to move forward on that.
Yep, no, I just wanted to make sure. Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? I see, sorry, Mayor Snow.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure what address changes the councillor is speaking of. However, I do know that as a resident of that street, that I have been provided with a letter, and that all of the residents of the street will be provided with 1 year of free address or letter readdressing through the post office. But I'm not sure if the councillor was speaking of that or with regards to businesses who need to change letterhead and that sort of thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor George,
May
did you
I?
want to speak again? Yes, go
Yeah,
ahead.
it's the change of letterhead, change of business signage, et cetera. That's what I speak of. Thank you.
Thank you. And to your point, Mayor Snow, I had spoken with a couple of solicitors that are on that actual street, and they had mentioned about having Canada Post extend them the 1 year where they would forward mail and so on and so forth. So that will be of benefit to them. So thank you for that. Any further discussion around that? Hearing none, we will move forward with the vote. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you.
At the November 14th, 2023 meeting of Council Advisory Committee, Becca Lapierre and Roger Tatlaw gave a presentation about the importance of the federal government establishing a model of basic income guarantee for Canadians. They requested a letter from council supporting a basic income guarantee in Nova Scotia. Council Advisory Committee recommends that council support the basic income guarantee.
Could I have somebody move? Counselor York, second. Counselor Huntley. Any discussion? Ready for the question? The question is that council support the basic income guarantee. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Okay, Counselor Gerard, you can continue.
At the November 14th, 2023 meeting of Council Advisory Committee, Mayor Sandra Snow introduced the proposed meeting dates for Council Advisory Committee and council meetings in the 2024 calendar year, with working meetings on the second Monday of the month from January to May. Council Advisory Committee recommends that council approve the proposed schedule. I so move.
Thank you, Counselor Sabian. Is there any discussion on that? No, sorry. Counselor York.
Thank you. With the additional council advisory committee meetings, I'm wondering if we can't, I understand there's like an understanding that we will be informed within X amount of days, but if we could put that in writing just as we can plan our schedules a little bit more thoroughly, 72 hours or whatever it might be, just so that people with families and businesses can, or you know what, being respectful of people's times in general, regardless of the reason, can get that done, please.
Thank you, and I see the CAO acknowledging, so I don't think that has to be part of the motion. I
Cool.
think it can just be direction to the CAO, if everybody's okay with that? Yep, okay.
72 hours?
Pardon?
72 hours?
72 hours?
Something.
A consistent time.
Yeah.
Okay, 72 hours. Any other discussion around that? Deputy Clerk, can you read the motion back, please?
That
council approve the proposed schedule.
Thank you. Voting is now almost open. I thought it was longer than that. Yep, voting is now closed, and the motion is carried.
At the November 14th, 2023 meeting of Council Advisory Committee, CAO Rachel Bedingfield described the role of the returning officer and assistant returning officer in the management of the 2024 municipal election. Council Advisory Committee recommends that council appoint Al Kingsbury as the returning officer and further Jeanette Stapleton as the assistant returning officer for the 2024 municipal election. I so move.
Second? Second. Okay, Counselor Zabian. Any discussion on that matter? Okay. Hearing none, it has been moved and seconded that council appoint Al Kingsbury as the returning officer and further Jeanette Stapleton as the assistant returning officer for the 2024 municipal elections to council. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried.
At the November 14th, 2023 meeting of Council Advisory Committee, CAO Rachel Bedingfield described the options available to council in the manner of voting for the municipal election and offered the options of a paper ballot system, online ballot system, or a combined ballot system. Council selected the hybrid method, which will give residents options for voting online or at the voting station in town. Council Advisory Committee recommends that council establish online and paper voting ballots for the 2024 municipal election. I so move.
Okay, second, Counselor Huntley. Any discussion? So the motion is that council establish online and paper voting ballots for the 2024 municipal election. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. Continue, Counselor.
At the November 14th, 2023 meeting of Council Advisory Committee, CAO Rachel Bedingfield outlined the process for requesting and receiving a copy of the voters list from the provincial government. Council Advisory Committee recommends, staff recommend that council permit the returning officer to obtain and update the list of electors from Elections Nova Scotia, and that the permanent register of electors established and maintained by Elections Nova Scotia be used as the basis for the preliminary list of electors for the town of Kentville in the October 19th, 2024 municipal election. I so move.
Second, Counselor Huntley. Any discussion on that motion? Ready for the question. The motion is that council permits the returning officer to obtain and update the list of electors from Elections Nova Scotia, and further that the permanent register of electors established and maintained by Elections Nova Scotia be used as a preliminary list of electors for the town of Kentville in the October 19th, 2024 municipal, my apologies, election. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried.
At the November 14th, 2023 meeting of Council Advisory Committee, CAO Rachel Bedingfield described the advanced poll method of voting and proposed a date that is being used by neighboring municipalities. Council Advisory Committee recommends, staff recommend that council holds advanced polls on October 10th, 2023. I so move. Actually, should be 2024.
Okay. Second. Counselor Zabian, any discussion on that motion? Okay. So the motion is that council hold advance polls on October 10th, 2024 for the 2024 municipal elections. Voting is now open. closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you, Councillor Gerard. Next on the agenda is are the councillors and mayor reports. And Councillor Gerard, I will put your mic back on.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. Very short month for me. November 21st, we had Police Commission, which I will let the Chair, Chair York, speak on that. And then November 14th and 15th, I had CAO interviews. Yeah, other than that, I just did the normal stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Councillor Gerard with regards to his report? Councillor Huntley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My report is listed under meetings and Kentville functions. The two things that I kind of want to talk about tonight, one is the AMAN's Municipal Accessibility Steering Committee. I have invited them to come down and meet our AT and Inclusion Committee, because they've heard such great things about what's happening in Kentville. So the manager and the Nova Scotia Accessibility Directorate, they're going to come down, talk to Jennifer, make an appointment, and they think that it will be so successful that they're going to do a road show and go around the province. So that was a good thing that came out of that. And secondly, it is not listed here, but it's been something that I've been working on. So I had a meeting with, I guess, many municipal leaders, and of course, the topic of conversation is always housing in any municipality. The one thing that we can talk about is, yes, we all need housing, but who's going to build them? So it comes back to trades. And NSCC, we know, has a trades program. But one of the ideas that I had come up with is how do we help the students in school who are going into the trades program with the cost of what their course is? As I spoke to the principal at NSCC, Jason Clark, we had quite a discussion, and I said, my idea is called Tools for Trades. And I'm not sure how we can help NSCC, but I'd like to inquire about helping the students in some way with the cost of their tools. We know right now, someone graduated, it'd be $1,000 that you would start with, and that would be kind of the basics of what people would need. He then connected me with NSCC, the foundation, and there was so much to learn about the foundation with NSCC, as they have many things going on to help the students in many of the programs. So they liked the idea of the Tools for Trades program, and they are now going to initiate that program into their funding, that it will be a donor list that will donate to that cause. The ask from all donors, and that'll go from developers and contractors, Nova Scotia Power, the list goes on, that they've already been contacted. Our first donor has signed up to deposit into this program. So it went to the housing minister, who passed it on to the advanced education minister, and it is now spreading out through the province. So we'll see what happens, but this will be a success for NSCC, and it shows that Kentville is, just wanting to help a little bit more than what they're doing, because I know the relationship between Kentville and NSCC is already strong, but this is something that we know that will be able to help the students. The other piece on that conversation was, I had asked about, what does it cost for somebody for a tuition? So they initially talked about $3,600, and I said, well, it must be more than that, because 36 is high, but he said, yeah, it's about 6,000. And that includes books and whatever. So I said, well, this Tools for Trades program will help. And he said, one of the stressors that happens sometimes with these students is that everything is going great, and then something might happen with housing, where they're renting right now, or their car breaks down, or something that is going to be a financial strain. So the more donors that we get on the list for this Tools for Trades, it will definitely help those that are in need. So I just wanted to give you a heads up, and as it grows, I will just keep you updated. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Huntley. Are there any questions for Councillor Huntley's report? Okay. Seeing none. Counselor Maxwell, you next.
Thank you. On October 30th, we had our public hearing for the rezoning of a parcel of land on Prospect Avenue. November 2nd, I attended the Annapolis Valley Trails Coalition meeting, and I'll go over that in a minute. On November 20th, we had a Heritage Committee meeting where we continued to review and make changes to a draft bylaw. Also made a recommendation to council concerning our town permit policy, so we'll probably hear more about that later on. On November 17th, I attended the holiday celebration, some of it. I dropped into Center Square to take in some of the activities for holidays. Fantastic carols, children visiting with Santa, marshmallow roasting over campfires. It was very festive and great attendance, and well done to all the organizers of that event. It was really good. Kenful Plays on November 18th. I popped up to Oakdean Park. It was a wonderful day, lots of activities, many families out playing together. It was just nice to see all the newcomer families in Kenful at that event. And everybody enjoying themselves. So again, great event, and kudos to our organizers. Now, the Annapolis Valley Trails Coalition, the coalition is on track for their budget, and lots of money in the bank, but we need to be cautious because most of the bills come in at the end of the season, so not so much at the beginning. Nova Scotia Trails Chair, Beth Patilio, has stepped down. The trail coordinator, Rick Jacks, also stepped down from Nova Scotia Trails, and so the coalition filled the two spaces from the valley to sit on Nova Scotia Trails. An impact study will be conducted along the Harvest Moon Trail for all the users of the trail. There will be signs posted with a QR code that users can access the survey. That survey can be done multiple times. They want to hear from people who are walking, biking, cross-country skiing, anything that can be done out there on the trail. And so, you can fill it out as many times, in the fall, in the spring, in the summer, whatever, in the winter. There will also be people positioned along areas of the trail that may just stop people and ask them to fill out the survey. The trail counter data, which is collected all the time along the trail, the survey results will be married together and provide important data next spring. So basically looking at getting some information next spring. This data can be used to determine what users need on the trail, so what kind of services do they need that will enhance the trail and obviously will help with tourism. And that's my report.
Thank you, Councillor Maxwell. Are there any questions for Councillor Maxwell with regards to her report? Okay, thank you for that. Next report, I guess, would be mine. I'll go through mine relatively quickly. I had Investment Advisory Committee on November the 24th, so I actually had completed my report and submitted it before we had our IAC meeting, but I'll just make one note on that, and then I'll have a more fulsome report at our next council meeting. But our investment advisor had noted that there was a change in view in the market cycle, and that we're going to start to build on the equity piece of our portfolio in as much as we're looking for more upside with regards to the growth. The Regional Sewer Committee literally was just this afternoon, so I don't quite have all my notes together on that, so I will address that at next council meeting. But if anybody has any questions for me with regards to anything as it relates to regional sewer, I'm happy to try and answer them. October the 26th was the meeting we had with the CAO Hiring Committee, Selection Committee, led by Brian Smith. I make a note there that there was a good roster of candidates, and interviews were expected to commence in mid-November. KBC, there was a board meeting on November the 5th, of which I sit ex officio, and the minutes of that such board meeting are attached. We had interviews on November the 14th and November the 15th, CAO interviews. We had another meeting on November the 18th, a meeting of the CAO Selection Committee. On October the 26th was a pumpkin walk that was held here in the town of Kemptville in support of Landmark East Bursaries. I attended the public meeting regarding the rezoning of October the 30th. October the 24th was the swearing in of newly appointed Chief of Police, Marty Smith. Congratulations. October the 28th was a housing information session, and there were MPs who hosted that session. There were the holidays and the Christmas market. I think the other folks around the table have mentioned that, November the 17th. And other times in November, I had citizen discussions with some folks in Deer Haven in conjunction with Director Bell, and some citizen discussions with other folks in Kemptville with respect to housing. And so when I have citizen discussions, I always like to make the point, and I'll make the point here, that I explain to citizens that this is a governance board, and then there is the operational side of things, and that what we try and do as a council is we try and send those things back to staff because they look after the operational things, and then as a council, we can come together and maybe make changes with some of those items. November the 22nd, last week, were the UARB hearings for the McDougall Heights appeal. I sat in on little bits and pieces of those. I understand they went for about 3 days, and I think that they are resuming those hearings in December. I think it might be December the 6th or the 8th, but I'm not sure on that. And I did attend NSFM from November the 7th to the 9th. There were discussions around code of conduct. There were discussions around service exchange agreements and what that will mean for the towns and municipalities. There were a variety of discussions with ministers around justice, environment, and housing discussions, of course, were at the top of the list for the conference. And that is my report. So, thank you for that. And Councillor York, your report is next.
Thank you. I've attended the same meetings as my colleagues around the horseshoe here, but I was able to attend, I had our Board of Police Commissioners meeting at the beginning of the month, where we sort of took a look at our work plan as we've been in these positions for about a year, and took a look at what we wanted to accomplish, what we have accomplished, and what's next to accomplish, and we're making good headway there. We also just struck our strategic plan committee, so we will be meeting later this week to start work on the strategic plan as far as a Board of Police Commissioners and the Kemptville Police Service go. I also had the opportunity to present at the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities, NSFM, the member meeting on policing. So I, along with Chief Smith, now Deputy Chief Reed, and Community Crisis Navigator Ashley Ettinger, spoke to the Community Crisis Navigator position in the town of Kemptville, and how that can be implemented across the province. It's important to me personally that these positions start to crop up across the province. Not only is it the right thing to do in terms of service to citizens, but sort of pragmatically, it does reduce the pressure and alleviate the pressure on the town of Kemptville if more neighboring communities have something similar in place. I was also, while at the NSFM meeting, I attended the conference and then also attended the Nova Scotia Association of Police Governance meeting, where we made next steps and introduced the new board, and what the training opportunities are going to be from the Department of Justice for new boards, and what that looks like moving forward for boards like our own. I had my library meeting with the Annapolis Valley Regional Library, the AVRL, with updating on finances and where we stand at this point in the budget year, as well as staffing concerns and staffing next steps, which is exciting. Same festivals and awards, or services rather. I also had the opportunity to attend the Police Long Service Awards. It was a very police-heavy month this month. When it's written writing, it seems a little bit much. However, I had the opportunity to attend with Chief Smith and was able to see Chris Burke receive his 15-year medal with the Town of Kentville Police Service. So it was really encouraging to see, that the longevity of a career one can have in the Kentville Police Service, but then also the benefits our community has by having people with that much knowledge and that much compassion on our police service. Like I said, I did attend the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities, the NSFM conference, and that conference fee is included in my year-to-date expenses. And I think I will leave it there at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor York. Does anybody have any questions for Councillor York with respect to her report? Okay, hearing none, we will move on. Councillor Zabian.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So I attended all the same meetings as all of you did. On the 20th, Councillor Maxwell touched on the Heritage Committee meeting. We're still picking away at that, and we hope to come back in the new year with something for council to review. On the 8th, I attended the KBC Business Block Party. That was a great event, and it was well attended. And if you haven't checked out the new location of the Tides Art Gallery, you should. It looks really good. Also attended the Tree Light Up, the Holidays Festival, and I got to tip my hat off again to the staff and KBC because they outdo themselves every year. I know it gets old, but we really do look like a Hallmark movie when everybody's downtown. I'm going to touch on Saturday. My wife had an amazing initiative to set up a supply drive on our Robinson lot, and two great citizens stepped up, Mark Rogers and Jill McDonald, and they spent the day in the cold out there, and I know most of council went and visited. People donated in droves, and the generosity was out of this world. I had very little to do with it. The only part I play is that I married the best girl in the world, so I give her props for that. But it was amazing, and it really showed how much community can do just on a fly. And it was just amazing to see that. And people came as well to collect items. They wanted coats and blankets, and it was just something I've never seen before. I never experienced it, so it was beautiful, and hopefully we'll see more of those come out of the woodwork. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Zabian. Does anybody have any questions for Councillor Zabian with regards to his report? Okay, hearing none. Mayor Snow, you are next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I attended most of the same meetings as my colleagues. On the 2nd of November, I attended a meeting with the NSHA partners, and this has evolved from what has happened at Soldiers Memorial and with the availability of an emergency room there. So what we had was a presentation of the recruiting plans and the availability of grants from the Nova Scotia government. And particularly, they are really changing how they're giving out grants. And for any member of Nova Scotia can actually apply for one of these grants if they are somehow changing the way things are done in their town with regards to recruiting, or bringing people together so that new arrivals in our NSHA are introduced to members of the town. So the NSHA has two things happen. First, they have an app, My Nova Scotia Health, and it's a very simple to use app. And the other thing with this app is that even if you have a family doctor, it permits you to have 2 online appointments. So those are with a company called Maple. So if you had to pay for it yourself, it would be $70 to do this an appointment with Maple. However, as soon as you download the app, you have the availability of 2 free appointments with them. So that's really good. And as well, they have updated their website so that it is much better and much easier to use. And this is all coming out of community conversations. And so the mayors that are sitting on this NSHA Partners Committee are promulgating this information throughout. I had a quarterly board meeting on the 7th of November of the NSFM Board of Directors. I attended the same NSFM police meeting on the 7th of November. And the Town of Kentville Police Service made the presentation of the Crisis Navigator. It was very well received from all in attendance. And I also have to say that everyone wants to be Kentville on that one. So it was rather nice. And then 10th of November, another board meeting where we met with our newly elected board after the AGM. On the 14th of November was CAO's selection committee, and I will say to council that there will be a fulsome report when we move in camera on that matter. The IMSA Board of Directors, again, it was a review of King's Transit and Valley Waste. I am a member of the NSFM Advisory Committee on Infrastructure. And we had our first board meeting, and all the advisory committees will have their first meeting in person, and then after that, they'll all be on Zoom. On the 22nd of November, I am on the NSHA Comms Working Group, which is a subset of our municipal partnership. And again, it's to discuss how we inform the public on the availability of healthcare and services in our Valley community. I also attended a webinar on fostering resilience in women municipal leaders, and it was very inspiring. Amanda McDougall from CBRM, Lori Boucher from Antigonish, and Joanna Killen from the city of St. John, New Brunswick made presentations, and it was one of those amazing webinars that you get to attend. For fun, on the 1st of November, I attended the KCA Pumpkin Drop at KCA, and again, it is totally the best day ever. If you're ever walking the trail on the 1st of November, it's one of those things that you should stop and do. So the pumpkins were all wrapped and dropped, and actually this year, one of the pumpkins actually survived. We ended up smashing it anyway, but the kids absolutely loved it, and the teachers really love it because if you note the date is the 1st of November, and so there's a lot of sugar running through that school that day. 11th of November, of course, was Remembrance Day ceremony, and as always, it was held at our cenotaph, and it was a lovely ceremony. 17th of November, holidays, and the 23rd of November, along with the chair of our police commission, I attended the Nova Scotia Police Province of Nova Scotia Long Service Awards, and Chris Burke was awarded his 15-year medal for his service over the last 16 years with Kentville Police Service. I also had the pleasure of attending the Diwali celebration in Wolfville on the 10th of November, and again, it was an absolutely wonderful event. My trip report for the NSFM is included, and I have included all of the conference events that I attended. Unfortunately, some of them are concurrent events, so you don't get to attend to all of them. However, it was well worth the time and expense to be there. And that is my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Snow. Does anybody on council have any questions for Mayor Snow's report? Okay. Hearing none, I will ask CAO Bedingfield if there are any updates on operational matters, please.
Thank you. So there isn't a report because traditionally staff prepare and deliver their reports for CAC. But oftentimes the CIO is given a chance to see if there's any updates. The only update that I have for council is just a continuation of that the executive is meeting regularly to talk about how best we can ensure that staff have what they need in order to be successful at their work and the work that the community is calling us to do, and that we're able to meet all of the requests from council. So that meeting does happen quite regularly. And then Councillor Gerard, you had asked about the pallet. I have no update on the pallet, but the town of Kentville wouldn't receive an update unless we were involved.
Thank you, CAO Bedingfield. Does anybody around the council do any councillors, have any questions for the CAO? Hearing none, we will keep moving. And we are now into item 6, new business. And we will start with item 1, which is the Mothers Against Drunk Driving proclamation. And I will hand that over to Councillor York. And I'm going to turn your mic on. Thank you, Councillor York.
Thank you. So you'll note in the council package that this year is the 36th anniversary of the Red Ribbon Campaign, which begun on November 1st and runs through until the Monday following New Year's Day, which brings us to January 8th. In the past, the town of Kentville has made a proclamation on, for a specific day to be the sort of date of action for the Red Ribbon Campaign. The town of Kentville Police Service and the Kentville Volunteer Fire Department have had their day of action on November 22nd. So I would propose that we have a retroactive date in a proclamation of November 22nd as Project Red Ribbon Day in the town of Kentville. And it's to raise awareness for the dangers of driving under the influence of drugs like alcohol and cannabis. And there is a sample proclamation that we just fill in the blanks, so it's super easy for staff to turn that around.
Thank you, Councillor York. So you are making a motion.
I am making a motion to have a proclamation stating November 22nd as Project Red Ribbon Day in the town of Kentville, as proclaimed by council.
Thank you.
Or the town of Kentville.
Thank you.
I so move.
Thank you. Second. I'm going to have the deputy clerk reread that back.
That council proclaim November 22nd, 2023 as Project Red Ribbon Day in the town of Kentville.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we're ready for the question. We'll go to vote. Voting is now open. And voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Okay, so the next item of business is the Code of Conduct. Before we get started with this item, I first want to, and I'm looking to Mayor Snow, to confirm that the Code of Conduct was breached by mouthing the word that was mouthed, directed at Councillor Zabian whilst chairing the meeting of October the 30th. Do you agree?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm a little lost as to what your expectation is of me.
Sorry, Mayor Snow, it's more about the motion part of this. So if there is an agreement there on your behalf, or if there's not, and if you wish to not say either way, then we can just go right back to how I was going to start. I was looking more for an acknowledgement to commence it, but if we don't have to proceed that way.
Okay, so I do acknowledge that I
Okay.
did say something under my breath.
Okay,
Yes.
that's great. Thank you very much. Okay. So, Councillor Zabian, you have brought forward a code of conduct breach against Mayor Snow, and we have a copy of it, and a copy of it was circulated to myself, members of council, and it was also posted with the package as well for others to review. Do you have anything new that you would like to add to the such documentation? Thank you.
Yeah.
You're on.
Sorry. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'd like to read my report, and I really hope that after I've read it, that things will improve within this council. That's really my ultimate goal, so I'm going to read it if I can. And I want to thank council for giving me the opportunity to read it as well. At the October 30th, 2023 meeting of council, there was a discussion surrounding the audit committee appointments, as well as the internal controls letter and/or management letter. I bring your attention to section 44, 2B of the MGA, which I had attached with my report, where it explains that the audit committee shall evaluate the internal control systems and any management letter with the audit. As you are aware, I have been a member of the audit committee since 2020, and on August 14th, I asked Deputy Mayor Savage to obtain a copy from the CAO. Per the sanction imposed on me by this council, I was unable to directly contact the CAO. Deputy Mayor Savage replied to me on September 5th and told me that she had heard nothing back. She also acknowledged that committee members had not received a copy. I informed Deputy Mayor Savage that Mayor Snow had a copy, at which time Deputy Mayor Savage told me that Mayor Snow would not release it. At approximately 40 minutes into the meeting of October 30th, 2023, I commented to Mayor Snow that I had requested a copy of the noted letter and was denied by her. At approximately 41 minutes and 20 seconds into the meeting, Mayor Snow made a disparaging and abusive comment towards me by calling me an asshole. I apologize for saying that, but it's what was said. This can be observed right after I said, "Thanks, Mayor Snow." It was only the following days after the meeting that I was alerted by the public who had been in the audience who had observed the comment. Citizens were appalled and witnessed this behavior by the mayor towards a member of council, and many members of the public have called for Mayor Snow's resignation. It has been observed nationally now as well and has been published in media publications. According to the Town of Kentville's Code of Conduct Policy G16 4.7.2, which I also attached, it states that our meetings do not allow for any member of council to make slanderous, threatening, abusive, or disparaging comments. I'm also attaching, or I did attach, a copy of a specific clip of the meeting where the mayor's comment can be heard. And immediately after I commented that Mayor Snow would not release the management letter, she made this offensive comment. The comment by Mayor Snow was disrespectful and arguably defamatory, and I personally feel intimidated and devalued by Mayor Snow. Council must work together to condemn this type of behavior. If council turns a blind eye, you are sending a direct message that this behavior is condoned and encouraged to continue. On November 8th, I prepared this code of conduct report to be part of the November 14th council meeting. On this same day, Deputy Mayor Savage informed members of the public that an apology would be coming, and I am not questioning Deputy Mayor Savage's comment. I believe that she believed that an apology was coming. Because of this, I decided to withdraw my code of conduct complaint in hopes for the greater good and an opportunity to put it behind us. There were indications that council was not happy with Mayor Snow's comment towards me, so I gave council a chance, yet I was disappointed again. On November 14th, at this meeting, at 5 minutes and 45 seconds into the meeting, Mayor Snow took an opportunity to state that the chair apologized to council for their unprofessional behavior. I do not know the context behind this apology or what it pertained to, as there was no explanation, and it was not an apology, and it was an apology to council, not to me. According to policy G16 4.15.1, if it is found that a member of council has breached the code of conduct, council can impose corrective action. Also within policy G16.
Sorry. Go ahead, Mayor Snow, your point of order is?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The complainant has every right under the G16 policy to write a breach report. However, only council has the right to impose corrective action. And additionally, it should also be noted that in accordance with Robert's rules, that the chair always uses the third person, and that is why the apology came from the chair in the third person. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Snow.
Where did I leave off here?
Sorry,
Sorry.
one moment. So you've you've called a point of privilege, I've allowed you to speak to it, and I'm supposed to rule on it. I think that the commentary has already been made, so we'll just continue on.
Okay. I'd like to note that this is not the first time Mayor Snow has been accused of bullying me in an open session.
Just one moment. Sorry, go ahead, Mayor Snow.
Madam Chair, a point of personal privilege. This has nothing to do with the current code breach report, and as such, it should not be part of this report.
Thank you, Mayor Snow. Councillor Zabian will disregard that portion of
Okay.
the report.
I'll skip over that. That was at the February 28th meeting in
Thank you.
2022. So if found in breach, I move the council sanction Mayor Snow as follows.
order, Madam Chair.
Just one moment. Go ahead, Mayor Snow.
Thank you very much. Only the council can sanction. A member of council writing a conduct breach report is not the one who should be writing what the sanction will be.
Thank you, Mayor Snow. Your point of order is acknowledged and ruled on and agreed to. And so as we move forward, whatever the will of council is with regards to motions, sanctions, et cetera, will be at the will of council.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Savage. Just
Thank you,
a
Councillor
little
Sabian.
bit of clarity. When Mayor Snow prepared a breach against me in April, she had a prepared sanction drafted at the meeting, and you all voted on it at the same meeting. It was prepared on a Saturday, and the meeting was Monday. So I'm just not understanding why there's a double standard when I prepare one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Zabian. I can't comment on that because I don't recall. But we'll just move forward as a council, and
Okay.
we'll look forward to settling this
Okay, thank you.
this evening. So I'm going to, you're finished?
I'm done, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Snow, I'm going to give the floor to you and ask if there is anything you wish to say to address this code of conduct breach.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have surrendered the chair this evening to address another code of conduct complaint that has been filed against me by a member of council. At the November 14th meeting, I apologize for my conduct during the October 30th meeting. I take complete responsibility for my actions. I was wrong to express my frustration in the way that I did on the October 30th meeting, and I apologize to Councillor Zabian for my comment. I was wrong. I am sorry if...
Just one moment. Councillor Zabian, your point of order is?
Just a little clarity there. I didn't get an apology on October 14th or November 14th. We wouldn't be here in this situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Zabian. Mayor Snow, are you referring back to the apology that was made on October the 30th, or are you giving an apology now? Sorry, at present?
Okay,
Perhaps you
I
could
have-
just repeat that.
I have 4 distinct sentences. I have surrendered the chair this evening to address another code of conduct complaint that has been filed against me by a member of council, period. At the November 14th meeting, I apologized for my conduct during the October 30th meeting, period. I take complete responsibility for my actions. I was wrong to express my frustration in the way that I did at the October 30th meeting, period. I apologize to Councillor Zabian at this moment for my comment. I was wrong. I am sorry if my comments have caused harm. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Snow. So what I would look for at this juncture, if there is a willingness to do so, sorry, Councillor Gerard. No, that's okay, I can go ahead with yourself.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm hoping after tonight, we can move forward, all of us, on this. We've been dealing with petty accusations and petty not giving apologies for 3 years. We've not been able to do a strategic plan because we've been dealing with this BS. We've not been able to do a hot wash. We've not been able to sit down and go, what 5 things do you think the future of Kentville could bring? We've not been able to do that. Do you think that the people in McDougall Heights that are worried about water coming in their basement when it rains like it does today give a crap about, sorry,
No, that's
my apologies, about the inner workings of the private, what could be dealt with very easily by a knock on the mayor's door, a knock on the CAO's door to go, can we deal with this? Do you think that the folks that thought they were gonna have the pallet project dumped in their backyard care about these? It's noise, it's absolute noise. I hope we can all move forward, start doing some good governance, because we've done nothing but spin our wheels for 3 years. And I'm sick and tired of doing it and being a laughingstock, frankly. I'm sick and tired of that. I don't want any part of that anymore. These meetings are to conduct business, and we've had so much BS at these meetings for the last 3 years. I'm sick and tired. If I was a tax-paying citizen, I'd be very sick and tired of watching this week after week and month after month. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jordan. Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. I take some exception, not to everything that the councillor opposite has said, but a good majority of it. Strategic planning, hot washing, looking after issues, all of those things are being addressed and have been addressed by council. The way that we conduct meetings and the way that we treat each other in those meetings does not hold back the business of the day. We get it done. There has been nothing that hasn't been done. Let me make myself clear. There has been absolutely nothing that this town and this council has not done and neglected to do or neglected to address. So saying that these are petty disputes and people don't care about them is wrong, because it speaks to how we conduct our business. Not to whether we get it done, but how we conduct it and how we treat each other. And yes, this has been going on for a long time. Not just these 3 years, but I went through this in my first term. And the councillor across knows very well about that. And I have certain feelings about that. And the way I was treated and how that was swept under the carpet, which makes one feel like, oh, you're just a female. Let me be clear. The business of the day is getting done. But don't think for a second that there aren't hurt feelings here. And there isn't vindictiveness here. Because there is. And that speaks to leadership, in my opinion, as a longtime high school coach. And I made a statement during that October 30th meeting that said that discussion, the audit committee, should never have happened in a public session, because all it did was inflame emotions. And not just of one person, it inflamed emotions of more than one person. Why it was conducted in an open session, I will leave to speculation, personal speculation, but I have an idea, after sitting here for 7 and some odd years, why it was done in an open session. But the way that we treat each other is important and should be important to the people of this town. Because we are conducting your business. We're getting it done, but there's a lot of hurt through this process. Madam Chair,
Thank you. Okay. Folks in the gallery, I would ask that you hold your applause. Councillor Maxwell, this is probably a great segue, and maybe it's not, but I think we have to have a motion on the table. We can certainly have more discussion, but.
I will make that motion.
Okay, so would your motion be that council
Well,
finds?
I will make the motion. You don't have to tell me the motion that I will make. Right? I will make a motion.
Go ahead, Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you,
You're
Chair,
very welcome.
Madam Chair.
Yep, you're welcome.
I will make a motion that since the mayor has apologized in public to Councillor Zabian, that apology also be put in written form and shared on our social media platforms. And then that brings a close to this issue.
I'm going to have the deputy clerk read the motion back.
Thank you.
We need to have a motion first to see that people agree that she's been.
Okay.
Go ahead, deputy clerk. You read the motion, and then we'll see if there's a seconder to the motion.
That the apology be put in written form and be posted to social media platforms, to the town's social media platforms.
Could I have a seconder for that motion? Is there a seconder for that motion? Sorry, my apologies.
I'll second.
Okay, second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Councillor York, go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate the intent of the motion is to get the public apology more accessible, or rather, my understanding is that the intent of the motion is to get the public apology more accessible to folks who may or may not watch this meeting. My concern with Town of Kentville's social media is first that it's Town of Kentville and not Town Council. Secondly, that Town of Kentville social media is used as promotional and tourism, and I don't know that this necessarily jives with this, the communication team's mandates. And not having those mandates at my fingertips here, I'm not sure if what we would be asking staff to do would fit within their understanding and their working operations of their social media campaigns. I understand the intent is to make it public, and so perhaps it has a place to be publicly hosted that's not Town of Kentville Facebook page, would be my 2 cents and my concern.
Okay. Perhaps the CAO can comment on that piece, the communications piece that Councillor York's referring to.
Thank you, and through the chair, yes, that is correct, that would go against the operational policy for our communications, for our social media. May I suggest that as this meeting is being recorded, it is public and people can find it on social media already?
Sorry, just 1 second, Councillor Maxwell.
Not everybody who has observed this or has gone on to look at this comment is here or will watch this meeting without being spurred on to do so. I think this is a simple way to do it. The only other way to make it public would be to put it in the local newspaper and on the radio, which I am very hesitant to doing. And so that's why I suggested our Facebook pages.
Thank you, Councillor Maxwell. So I'm going to defer back to the CAO where it contravenes the communications plan. What does that mean?
It's the will of council. I'm just letting you know that that policy exists.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Gerard, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just curious if there's a precedent for a more, I don't even think that there's a precedent that when an apology is asked for, it's given. So I don't think on this term of council, there's ever been an apology that's gone more than a direct apology when at the following meeting or at a subsequent meeting. I'm not comfortable having something like that put up on the Kentville Facebook page. That's not what it's for. I won't support a social media apology. One did happen tonight, which, as I said, it's been asked for several times. It's been rare to receive. And that's all of them. That's not just the apology that's asked for by the mayor. But I'm not comfortable with a Facebook apology. I don't even know why that would be asked for. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Gerard. Mayor Snow.
Thank you, Madam Chair. These minutes are recorded, and additionally, there is a set of minutes that come out of this, and I am happy to add a separate document to that with a written apology, if that would satisfy the request for sanction.
Thank you, Mayor Snow. What I think I will do, rather than the motion potentially being amended, I'm going to keep going in sequential order. It's Zabian and then York, and then Councillor Maxwell. Can I come back to you? Sure. Thank you. My apologies. No, sorry. Councillor Zabian, and then you have to put yours back on. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Since I'm the one who this happened to, I just would like to say a couple of things. I'm hearing two things here. We want to move on, but we kind of want to just let this go, sort of. I kind of get that inclination. When this happened to me before, and I won't reference when, it went in the minutes. It was the same situation. It went in the minutes. The only difference was that time we hired a third party to come in and make the decision that the code had been breached. And that took months and months, and a lot of money was spent to come back with the same thing that we're coming up with now. And that, again, was tucked away in the minutes. And no apology was given. I think that time council took responsibility, which I appreciate. I would like a written apology. So I personally would like to see it on the platforms. I think that would be very nice, and it would be a stepping stone forward. I don't know how the rest of you feel about that, and it is the will of council. But to me, that would be an acknowledgement for what happened. I know I would feel better, and it would definitely be a way forward for all of us, because it is time that we pull our pants up and get work done. And we are getting work done, but there is a lot of behind the scenes things here that the public has no idea about. And if they did, their heads would probably spin. So to me, yes, I would like a written apology. I think it would be great if you could share it. I don't think I have to say anything else. I've read the breach and you've all got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Zabian. And Councillor York, you have the floor.
Thank you. My concern with the motion as it's written, as I stated before, is that we're going to be asking staff to do something that they cannot fulfill. And that puts us in two awkward positions. First, that we're asking them to do something that we are well aware of is going to be in violation of something that they have created. And secondly, we're asking them to come back and say, no, we won't do that for you. And that seems an uncomfortable position to ask staff to be put in the middle of for what is arguably a council-related issue. Secondly, and Mayor Snow has alluded to it as well, not alluded, outright said, that a written apology would be included in the minutes. So not only would the minutes reflect that an apology was issued, but additionally, the minutes would include a written apology, if I understood correctly. Okay. So hosting that, so having the YouTube video, which we've seen, which will be this meeting broadcast and shared on that social platform, as well as having the minutes reflect an apology with an additional apology written that would be hosted on our website, does that satisfy the public apology portion while still allowing staff to not be put in the middle of a council dispute at the same time?
Thank you, Councillor York, and CEO Bedingfield has just shared with me that we can actually share on social media where to find the minutes. And as Mayor Snow mentioned, included in those minutes would be an actual written apology. So I think that would be helpful. That said, I think the deputy clerk, I'm going to go back to you, Councillor Maxwell.
Right.
Do you need the deputy clerk to read the motion again? Because then I believe we have to do an amendment to the motion.
Yeah.
Or with, I'm looking at you,
I just want to
Solicitor.
make some,
Yeah, sure. No.
clarifying statements
Yep,
here.
okay, go ahead.
I know that there is a concern for staff. I realize that. However, let's be clear. We as a council can direct the CAO to do something, and the CAO can direct the staff. Right? That is the way things happen, and that is the way it works. Whether the staff has a policy or not, we as a council direct. All right? Now, am I okay with not sharing to the town's social media? I guess if I was the person who was aggrieved, I might not be. But I can also access those minutes, take a screenshot, and share them on my personal account. So to me, that would satisfy myself. So I would withdraw the share to social media accounts, the town's social media accounts. But I do think that a written apology is in order. I have been asked twice that I can remember this term to apologize. Once to Councillor York, who took exception to something I said, and once to,
Thank you, go ahead.
oh, come on.
Sorry, Councillor Maxwell.
Yes, this is germane.
Councillor Maxwell, Mayor
Yes.
Snow has called a point of order, so I have to respond to her as the chair and ask her.
Go ahead.
What her point of order is.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Mayor Snow.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My point of order is that the councillor is bringing up information that has already been resolved at this council. Furthermore, she is speaking to the sense or the feelings that a councillor may have had for statements that were made to that member of council.
I didn't, excuse me.
Councillor Maxwell, you don't have the floor. If you could just wait a moment. Is that the end of your point of
Yes,
order?
Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Snow. Councillor Maxwell, if you could keep your comments germane to the motion that we're speaking of, please.
Okay, we're discussing a written letter.
Yes.
We've been told there has been no precedent for such thing. There has been precedent. The precedent was when I apologized, I gave written letters. So the precedent was set within this term, and I think it's in order, and I will keep the written letter to Councillor Zabian in the motion. Thank you.
So I think what I'm going to ask you to do is re-say your motion. I believe you withdrew a motion.
I withdrew part.
You withdrew part. So let's do your motion.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion that since the mayor has apologized in public, that a written letter be issued from the mayor to Councillor Zabian to complete to Councillor Zabian, as well as put in the minutes to complete this issue.
We'll just give the deputy clerk a minute and she will read it back.
If I may,
Please.
that the apology be put in written form in a letter from Mayor Sandra Snow to Councillor Andrew Zabian to bring closure to this issue.
And placed in the minutes.
Does that capture your motion, Councillor Maxwell?
Yes, it does.
Thank you. And could I have and is there a seconder for that motion?
I'll second it.
Councillor Zabian has seconded it. Is there any discussion? Councillor Gerard, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, no, just a correction. My question as to was there precedent was basic, having to do with social media, if an apology's ever been blasted on social media. We ask for written apologies all the time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no more lights on, I would say that there is no more discussion, so I would assume everybody is ready for the question. So the question will be called, and Deputy Clerk, I will ask you to read the motion again, please, so folks can vote.
That the apology be put in written form in a letter from Mayor Sandra Snow to Councillor Andrew Zabian to bring closure to this issue, and that the letter be placed in the minutes.
Okay. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried.
Thank you, Mayor Snow.
And thank you to everybody. These are very sensitive topics, and I appreciate all the work that goes into it and every single comment that was here tonight. Thank you for them. All right. Let's move forward into letter C, letter to the federal government, and that is an item that is brought forward by Councillor York. So Councillor York, I will give you the floor, and I would assume when you are covering this off, you will also welcome, we have quite a number of individuals in our gallery here tonight.
Yes, thank you. My council colleagues and many people from the community have received many heartfelt emails about the current crisis in Gaza and in Palestine. And I am calling on the town of Kentville, the town council of Kentville, to write a letter to the federal government to amplify calls that are being made from municipal governments and provincial governments across the country for the release of hostages, the establishment of humanitarian pathways, diplomatic and political solutions to the crisis, and a ceasefire in the region. So I'm calling on the town of Kentville Town Council to amplify those calls and write a letter to the federal government with those intents.
So that is your motion.
Yes.
Could you read?
I'm sorry?
Could you repeat the motion?
Yep.
It's very long for me.
Yes, no, that makes sense. I'm going to send this to you. There's a lot of pressure right now.
Just repeat it.
It might be in the passive voice. My apologies. Okay. The motion might need to change the region to be Palestine, because I haven't said that part out loud. For clarification. Yes.
Please go ahead.
That council write a letter to the federal government to amplify calls that are being made from municipal governments and provincial governments across the country for the release of hostages, the establishment of humanitarian pathways, diplomatic and political solutions to the crisis, and a ceasefire in Palestine.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Counselor Huntley. Thank you for that. Discussion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Go ahead, Mayor Savage. I'm sorry, Mayor Snow.
Mike would be so happy that you said that.
Sorry.
Thank you. So to put this in context, last week, the town of Wolfville did have this matter before council and did make a motion to which way they were going. I reached out, I'm going to say, to the 11 urban mayors and received responses from all of them. And as one of my colleagues said, everyone says they just want a politician who takes a position. What they actually want is a politician who takes their position. I'm also going to put out there that as municipal councils, we are told to stay out of things that don't concern us, but then told that we should be involved with things that are out of our jurisdiction. I would also say that I have gone to the federal government position on this as of November the 22nd, and it speaks of that we must do everything possible to avoid further loss of innocent civilian life and move towards long-lasting peace in the region. Canada mourns the loss of Israeli and Palestinian lives following the October 7th attack, and we will continue to stand firmly with the Israeli and Palestinian people in their right to live in peace, security, and dignity without fear. We will continue to support a two-state solution where a peaceful, prosperous, and safe Palestine state thrives alongside a peaceful, prosperous, and safe state of Israel. I do not have a problem with writing a letter. However, I feel that as a council, that we need to walk a very cautious middle line. And I would like to suggest that we truly do give peace a chance. And somewhere in the back of my head, there is a song singing. And the Town of Kentville Council support the calls for long-lasting peace in the Middle East, the Ukraine, and in Africa. As citizens of the world, we bear the responsibility to seek peace in our world and to ensure that all citizens are treated with dignity. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Snow. Councillor York, you have the floor.
Thank you. As was evident, I think, both in the meeting that took place in Wolfville, which I had the privilege to watch back, as well as in the emails that we've received from residents and the conversations that I've had with residents who are a part of our community. This very much impacts them. This very much has a toll on their everyday life. Excuse me. And while I appreciate that the federal government is calling for peace, I think the only way in order to achieve that is to have a ceasefire in the region. And I appreciate that this is not perhaps the avenue for me to be standing on a soapbox. However, here I stand. I would also reiterate that those calls for peace in Africa and Ukraine are important, and they do, we should bear witness to those as well. However, I think it's important that each one of those conflicts is given their own platform and their own letter. Those things are all atrocious. Those things are all horrific. And if we are making a call for peace, I think we should be making that call clearly and loudly, and I would happily support 3 letters if that's what we need to do. But my intent is that the letter be specific and be clear, and it be a call of action, or at least to put pressure on somebody federally saying ceasefire.
Thank you, Councillor York. Councillor Zabian, you have the floor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I want to thank Councillor York for her words right now, and as well as Mayor Snow. I don't think people understand sometimes when we watch the news and what goes on, and when you have 2.1 million people in a very, very small area, there's going to be casualties. It's going to happen, and over 22,000 people, many of those children have been the result of this. It's very impactful, and when our government says we're gonna call for a humanitarian pause, that's not a ceasefire. That's a 4-day pause, which isn't really even in effect because there's been casualties in that 4 days. We're still reading in the West Bank, and that's not even part of Gaza. And I think we're small here for sure. Wolf is small too, but I think this is our time to stand up and say, you know what? The government is all our government, the federal government, and I think it's time that we tell them this is what we want. I don't like to see any casualties, whether they're Israeli or Palestinian. I don't want to see anybody dead. A life is a life. I don't value one more than the other, and it's just horrific. And I would urge the letter be written, as Councillor York just said, specific to this issue and very clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Zabian. Is there any more discussion on the motion? Seeing no other lights, I would, oh, go ahead, Councillor Maxwell. Sorry, I didn't see your light.
Yeah, this is such a hard thing. I agree with everything that the mayor has said. I also agree with everything that Councillor York has said. I think that we in North America have no idea what's going on. We can only subject ourselves to what we hear in the news, and that isn't always accurate. You know, I don't want to insult Palestinians. I don't want to insult Israelis. I feel for the Israelis. What happened was horrible, absolutely horrible. Cannot be condoned at all. I feel that it's really tough when we're looking at another level of government and saying, this is what we want you to do. And yet we don't like it when they come to us and say, this is what we want you to do. You know, it's that double standard, but that's politics, I think. And, you know, we've looked at our provincial government and said, yeah, you're trying to tell us what to do, yet we want to turn around and go to the federal government. We're going to tell you what we want you to do. It's a double standard. I think, you know, it's just tough. Letters, they won't have any influence, so, you know, go ahead, write a letter. I just think that this is a horrible, horrible situation, and one that we, as a town council, as a province, as a country, are not going to solve. We can't solve this. If we could, it would have been done a long time ago. So that's all I have to say on it.
Thank you, Councillor Maxwell. Councillor York, you have the floor.
And I recognize that it's my third time speaking, so so thank you. I recognize that we are a municipal government and we are making an ask or a plea of a government agency that is above us in that hierarchy. I appreciate that. However, to the previous point that have been made, I don't think that this is an issue that is strictly political. We are talking about 160 children every day. And I appreciate that it is a letter, and I appreciate that governments receive many letters. But we've been asked by our citizens to make sure that their voices get amplified, and we are being asked by citizens whose voices have been historically quieted and have been historically passed over. And I think it is our duty as representatives of them in this community to make sure that their voices are heard at every level. And if what we can do is write a letter, then it is our responsibility to do that, and it would be shameful for us not to. 160 children.
Thank you, Councillor York, and I do understand and appreciate that this is a very sensitive issue. So, Councillor Zabian.
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor York. I'm gonna turn into my late father for a minute. As the older I get, the more stories I have. I don't really share this, but I have been in Lebanon and stuck under bombardment and through a war and couldn't leave. The airport was bombed and I was stuck there for 6 or 7 weeks and I couldn't leave the country. Couldn't get to the airport because the roads were bombed and the airport was bombed. So I eventually had to leave through Syria, which is neighboring, like 20 minutes from where we lived there. And my dad took me, my sister she was like 8 months pregnant. And I left first. I had to leave my dad there and I had to cross over. You couldn't drive a car. The roads had been bombed and you had to walk to get over the border and get into Syria and leave. And the media here is so censored, you don't see that. You see one side, and I know it's hard for you to even understand that you only see one side, because we think the news is the news and it's the truth, but you don't see the other side of the story. And I just want to make it clear, calling for a ceasefire doesn't even mean you're taking sides. You're taking the side of life, whether it's Israeli, whether it's Palestinian. That's what a ceasefire is. We're not asking you to say, you know what, the Palestinians are right or the Israelis are. We want to save lives. That's all we want out of this. And I have to echo, I'm not going to say it as well as Councillor York did, but if we can't write a letter, I mean, that is the bare minimum we can do. And I think that's what it takes. So as someone who, and I haven't been through, I mean, my experience was nowhere in comparison to what these people are going through. But when you really dig into it and you do a little more research and you watch more and learn more and go to different places to get your news, you're going to see a totally different side. And it's going to change anything you ever thought you saw on CNN or on whatever. Totally different. And I encourage you to do that. There is good and bad in everybody. We know that. And I think we have to do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Zabian. I think everybody else has spoken, and I would just like to say something very brief as the chair. I try not to say too much, but I started out the meeting tonight by talking about this being a collective council. And I see in this room tonight a collective community, and a community that is going through great trials and tribulations, and that makes me very sad. And it was very brave for Councillor York to bring this forward and the councillors to speak on this. It is a very, very sensitive and trying topic. So I appreciate that it's very sensitive, and I thank all of the people that have come here tonight. And I just feel for so many of you. So thank you. So we'll put this to a vote. Sorry, Mayor Snow, sorry.
Thank you.
I didn't see your light.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to ask once again that we stand by the federal government. I believe that calling for the ceasefire as it's been asked is taking a position. And I do not believe that we wish to take a position. I think we need to look towards peace and the preservation of life and critical elements of food, water, fuel, and emergency medical supplies getting into the Gaza Strip where they are much needed. However, I truly have an issue with calling for a ceasefire in the manner in which it has been asked. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Snow. Just so I don't miss anybody else, is there any other further discussion? Call for the question then.
Actually,
Sorry.
It's too late.
No, you go ahead, Councillor Zabian.
This is going to be very unorthodox. Could we entertain some of the people in the audience to speak to us, like 3 or 4 of them? I know it's not the usual typical way of handling a meeting, but these fine folks came in tonight. A lot of them were in Wolfville last week, and Wolfville gave them the opportunity to speak. And I would like to, if it's the will of council, to hear from some of them. If you guys will entertain 10 minutes of your time, I think that would be lovely.
Thank you, Councillor Zabian. I will put this to, sorry, we have a motion on the floor right now. So I think I'd like to get that motion voted on, if council is amenable to that, and we'll do that first.
I could, but that might just to hear a different perspective from people before we vote. That might be nice because you, again, I'm just going by what Wolfville's done and it's a new thing, you know, this was, I think Wolfville's the first town in Nova Scotia that has brought, that this has been brought forward to. And if you, the will of all of you to give them 10 minutes, I think that would be lovely. They've
So-
shown up and this is probably the biggest amount of people we've had in here, I think in my
Your
3
mic's
years.
not on.
Oh, sorry. They can hear me
Yeah,
anyway.
okay.
This is the most people we've had in here in 3 years, and if we could entertain them for 10 minutes, I would really appreciate that, and I know they would too.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Zabian. I'm going to go to you, Counselor Maxwell.
Thank you. I have no problem, of course, listening to people. I'm just wondering if they could say, well, I guess they don't need to say, I just want to make sure we have a balanced opinion. Because we're looking at two groups, if I'm correct. We're looking at Palestinians and Israelis. I'm wondering if there are representatives from Israel as well. So, you know, I think that we need to keep in mind, and like I'm following what Mayor Snow says here a little bit. You know, I don't mind letters, you know, that's fine. But I have had some neighbors of mine who lived on my street who are Israeli and who are now in long-term care. And I've heard how very, very upsetting this has been for them, that they have been up all night watching the news and fearing for loved ones at that concert. They're all alone over here in Canada. Their entire family is in Israel. And so I think it's important that we have balance. And I don't favor one group over the other. I'm just saying that there's more than one side, there's two sides. And as Mayor Snow says, it's hard, you don't want to pick sides. I don't want to pick sides. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Maxwell. So there's a motion on the floor, and we've had discussion. This is to your point, Councillor Zabian, it is very unorthodox. And I guess I would just, I would put it out to council. If there, perhaps, I feel like there is a spokesperson here that could potentially have something to say. So I'm just, what is the consensus of council? What's your wish? I'm looking, I think it's Mr. Raffi that would speak. Am I correct? Okay. Council, is everybody on side with that? Okay. Okay. Yep. So I'm going to put the podium on.
Please, thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for having us. We would like to have our share. You guys have a question period as part of the council meeting. We would like to take up an opportunity of that, if you don't mind. It is our right, I think, as citizens to be able to, and taxpayers of Kenville, to have a word, at least share and get to know you. And for my community, to be able to have some dialogue. I understand you have, Councillor Maxwell has an Israeli neighbors. I have a lot of Israeli friends. We have all Jewish friends. We live here in harmony. We as a community.
Joe, sorry. Can you use the mic? And perhaps Councillor Maxwell can help you raise it. The table, Councillor Maxwell.
That's okay.
Okay. So can you just identify yourself so people know who you are?
My name is Joe Raffi. I've lived in your community for approximately 50 years.
Okay.
I came here to Canada as a child from Lebanon with my parents. And I understand the anguish on both sides. It is a very traumatic story. 1948, the Palestinians were living there in peace like we are here. They took in several million Jews from Europe after the Holocaust. A very tragic and trying time. The Europeans and the world shipped them to Palestine, onto a farming nation that might be a little bit bigger than PI, maybe double PI. You had 5 or 6 million Palestinians there. They were expelled to make room for these people. It was a land they called a land, empty land with no people for a people with no land. There was people there. A catastrophe happened, called the Nakba in my language, catastrophe. They were expelled into Lebanon, Jordan, to the neighboring countries. They had homes, they had a parliament. They had probably the biggest bank in the world, Bank of Intra. They had a civilization, a great civilization. Your science, your math, your algebra, your chemistry, whatever, came from them. They are the root. They brought Europe out of its dark ages. These are the people. They're not your terrorists. They're not your, whatever they want to describe them, in the slanted media. They are people today with no money. They are people today, they are the poor. They are taken advantage of. They're slanted by our Western media. I grew up watching my father and his friends listening to transistor radios to what's happening. And guess what? The same story's been happening ever since I was a child. No one wants to step up. It was a Cold War situation between the communists and the free world. They established Israel, gave them no hope to survive. You survive if you do everything we want. They made Israel the biggest military base in the world to combat communism, to combat whatever. I can go a long time on that. This story is not about Kenville. It is about Kenville. It is about Wolfville. It's about Nova Scotia. It's about us as Canadians living here. 3 Palestinian boys got shot yesterday in Vermont. They got shot for nothing other than they're Palestinians. A landlord went and shot a Palestinian family in their own home in Chicago. I don't want it to happen here. We can stop the small stuff by us speaking out as humans. The Palestinians were terrorized by the Haganah, by the Stern Gang out of Palestine in 1948. And they pushed the Gazians are the people where the kibbutz are. They pushed them out of homes, out of cities. They put them in an area, you know how big it is? 25 miles long by 7 miles wide, 2.3 million people. They're dropping laser-guided bombs from 1,000 tons or 1,000 tons to 2,000 tons onto people in an area that small, from here to Berwick. It is disgusting. The only thing, those babies that are born there, the only wrong they've did, they're born there. We're not asking for the people living in Gaza in this Berwick to Wolfville situation. I'm not saying they're right what they did. We don't like to see anybody hurt. I don't want to see the people in the kibbutz hurt. Those people come from Canada, from the United States, from Europe, from everywhere, to take land that belongs to poor people that have nothing. I commend you, Council. You took down the name Cornwallis. That was an injustice that was done in Canada. I commend you. You guys are brave people. You're great people. You got a good council. That's an injustice that was done to our native people. And we hung names around them forever because the media did not tell us the story. People didn't know the Holocaust was happening. I just don't know. I'm not telling the Prime Minister what to do. But for the sake of $1, and the United States dictates to him what he has to say, I think that is wrong. We all know that. Our trade is connected to the U.S. The U.S. wants to do this. We got to be on their side. That's wrong. We are a multicultural country. We had peacekeepers in the world. That's what we're known for. We can stand up. The world will love us. Bolivia stood up. Bolivia, they're poor. The United States, how much pressure can the United States put on them? They're standing up for the state of Palestine. They're standing for the people. Spain is standing up, another poor European country. So we're not saying we want the right for those people. You're saving Israeli kids, you're saving Palestinian kids, you're saving trouble from happening in our own communities. Our students are unsafe. They feel unsafe when they hear about their friends or their fellow citizens coming to for Thanksgiving dinner in Chicago, from Chicago to Vermont, and some crazy man, 48-year-old guy, gets on and shoots 3 of them. We want peace. We are appealing to your humanity, for the sake of those babies that lay on a table in tin foil. One Israeli guy says they're already in tin foil, ready for the oven. It's sick. They want to nuke them. The man that's carrying his kids in grocery bags, picking their pieces up. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about some crazy guys that want to do whatever they have to do. But guess what? Which one of you here will give these people your home tonight? And you guys go away. Let's come on. Give your homes. You guys are nice people. Give your homes up to these people here, and you guys go away. Because I said so. That's what the Palestinians were told to do in 1948 by the United Nations, run by the United States, and there's 152 resolutions in the United Nations. Not one was fulfilled by Israel Mayor Snow. Not one. One. But when the United Nations suits Israel's purpose, guess what? Oh, the United Nations, there's human rights, there's this, there's that. But they don't fulfill nothing. Let's speak for peace. Let's put these people together. They got hard heads.
Thank
We
you.
want to put them together. We want peace. We're asking you to ask them to move peace on, recognize the pace of the state of Palestine.
Okay.
It's long enough. I've been in the refugee camps in Beirut. This wide. Like the homes are still, they go up and they're stuck together. You can't even move 2 people side by side. More rats kill them in those refugee camps than bullets. It's sick. And what we sat here and we said, oh, look what happened October 7th. What happened the day before? What's happened in the West Bank? There's no Hamas there. They have an authority that has a police force that's loyal to Israel, called Mahmoud Abbas. And guess what? They're still going in that town. They're killing them. They're taking them to jail. About 3,000 of them have been gone to jail since this uprising has happened. We're not saying nothing. We don't say anything about the 8,000 Palestinians in jail. Kids her age, the girls that are being released, they were her age when they went to jail or smaller. Kids being killed in those jails. They're malnourished. We're not saying nothing. But guess what? 40 days in prison, it's a long time for anybody that's taken by force. 40 days, and we think it's a lot. Some of those people have been there since 1963 because they are political prisoners. That's all. We don't hear it here. You guys they close your eyes. They don't teach us. Our curriculum is garbage. It's run by lobbyists. Our politicians are taken to Israel by Canadian Israeli Jewish organization. They spent $23,000 on Cody Boyce, take him to Israel, him and his wife. Is that a bribe or is that just a nice trip to Israel? He won't give us a decent, he won't give a letter. Why? Money doesn't buy Joe Rafi. And I hope money doesn't buy you guys. And I hope we all understand where we're coming from.
Thank you, Mr. Rath.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
But remember, Gaza is that long. I want to tell you one more story.
Okay,
I was a
and
child.
then
A
we have
dog
to
bit
get back to the
my-
motion.
A dog bit this leg, Mayor Snow. You see this leg? That's a dog bite. I laid on a table without anesthesia. They took me about 25 miles from my village to a little city, a little town. They operated with no anesthesia. I remember it today. I see myself on that table. I see my father calling the doctor, everything but a good guy. And they pulled him out of the room. And I was screaming for my life. They were cutting my skin with the scissors and scalps to stretch it. I lived it. So those kids in those hospitals now with no anesthesia, no medicine, no water, I feel for them. I have grandchildren. So do you. You guys have children, maybe you do, I don't know you. But it could be you. The only reason you're here because you're born here. You could have been born there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Did you want to say something very briefly, and then we want to put this to a vote?
Okay, I'm
Okay,
going
go
to start
ahead.
off by introducing myself. My name is Dua Khatib. I'm a Canadian citizen and live in Kentville. I was born in Syria, so I understand what it's like to lose a family member or a person from your hometown. Due to my own experience, we understand how they feel. We urge that the crisis end permanently, not just 5-day truce, while we witness the violence in Palestine and the death of over 5,000 children. We hope you will help us in our effort to bring peace by raising our voices to the government and to everyone in the world. We want peace for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Did you, I think we all know what the motion is. Do you need to read it again? Maybe you could read it.
That council write a letter to the federal government to amplify calls that are being made from municipal governments and provincial governments across the country for the release of hostages, the establishment of humanitarian pathways, diplomatic and political solutions to the crisis, and a ceasefire in Palestine.
Voting is now open. Is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. All right. Yes, we are going to take a 5-minute recess, then we have one item under new business, and then we have our public comment section. So we will take a 5-minute recess. Yes. We're back online? Yes, okay. Thank you, everyone, for that recess. I think we needed that. Okay, we will go on to the next item, and that being the management letter. The management letter as it pertains to the audit committee. And Councillor Zabian, you had brought that forward. So, you go ahead.
Yes, Mayor Snow, I just want to correct.
Oh, Mayor.
Sorry. We good now?
Yeah.
Test, oh,
You call-
sorry. Deputy Mayor Savage. I just, when I submitted my report, my council report, I hadn't seen this letter, and I did get to see it on Friday afternoon. The CAO invited me over to look at it, and I did take a look at it. Nothing unordinary in there. There was just one part that kind of concerned me, and it was surrounding policy changes to, I think it was sick or vacation pay, that council has to approve exceptional changes. And there was kind of a cautionary thing there. That was the only thing that that I was a little bit concerned with, because I don't think council has approved any changes. I don't know the story on that or what it pertains to, but just was a little concerned with it. That's the only thing I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And actually, Mayor Snow, I was going to ask you to respond as the committee chair.
Thank
You have
you,
the floor.
thank you, Madam Chair. And as the councillor and committee member has pointed out, we did have a management letter this year. And what the essence of the management letter was with regards to vacation pay. When typically people are supposed to take their pay or their vacation in the year in which they earned that vacation. However, we have had employees who have not taken all of their vacation, so they therefore bank that vacation pay. However, the town has never put a liability against that vacation pay. So which meant that when somebody left, if they say, let's say had 100 days that we had to pay them out for, we had to find that money within the budget, the current year operational budget, to pay them out. This was identified at committee level, and it had already also been resolved by management in that our finance department actually set up a liability for all of the vacation pay that is currently outstanding. Now, the effect on, I will say, our budget or the bottom line is that the money that we may have put into our reserves coming out of the admin GLs was not going to go into reserves. It was now being used for this vacation pay. So on the books, from this point forward, you, the public, anyone who reads our documents, will see a liability against vacation pay. And as people leave, they will be paid out. And however, our policy remains that people are, employees, I keep saying people, sorry, employees are supposed to take their vacation in the year in which it is earned. And it is only in exceptional circumstances that it will be banked and a liability will continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Snow. There's a section of the Municipal Government Act here under Municipal Auditor, Section 42, Item 5, where it says the auditor shall report to the council and to the minister any management letters and any communication from the auditor detailing weaknesses in internal control, deficiencies in management information systems, or other areas requiring improvement. So that management letter and the content of same, when we discussed it at the audit committee, was considered to be not a derogatory, not even considered a minor, but something that that perhaps wasn't being done in the past and that the auditor felt should be done, which is why it was encapsulated in that letter. And I'm asking you as the chair.
Madam Chair, the whole way that our finances are being looked at. So this was management actually noted this, confirmed with the auditor that we should be setting up the liability, and that's what was done. So at committee level, we were provided with this information, and then when the auditor was here, he spoke about the liability. And I don't have the text, however, his text is very clear in that he speaks about the management level. And he also speaks about it, I'm gonna say, in a higher level, so that there's no finger pointing or the fact that we had this issue, we have put something in place so that it is resolved.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Counselor Zabian was before you, but I hit you before him. So I'm going to give Counselor Zabian the floor, and Counselor Maxwell, if you could hit your light again, and then I'll get you next. Sorry. Go ahead, Counselor Zabian.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and through the chair, if I may, just wondering, Mayor Snow, as you're the chair of this, I guess, and I don't have it in front of me either, like you said, so I don't have the language in front of me, but the only thing that confused me was the mention of policy changes have to be approved by council. So all I'm wondering is, was something changed, and how was it? I guess you just said that something was kind of changed sort of to correct this issue, right? But it didn't come before council. That was only my concern. I just wondered how that happened. That's the only thing I was questioning. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Zabian. And you had asked through the chair. So Mayor Snow, did you wish to respond?
So, Madam Chair, there was no policy change that had to be changed by council. The policy was already in place that employees are supposed to take their vacation. The change comes in the way that finance is now dealing with it. They aren't going to have to put together money. They have created the liability. So that's not a policy change by council either. That is a good practice, and that is a typical practice of a finance department.
According to PSAP, yeah, okay. Counselor Maxwell, you have the floor.
Thank you. And through the chair to the mayor, the chair of the audit committee. I'm wondering, since the MGA says that the auditor should report to the council and so on, if when we get our auditor's report, we could also get a copy of the management letter, because I could go into the research and tell you that when somebody is standing up in front of a room and talking, you're only absorbing a certain amount of what they're saying. You're not taking in every single thing. And so if my job is, as a counselor, to, keep an eye on what's going on in the town for, on the various committees and so on, then I would like, when I'm reviewing the audit, that I would also see and review the management letter, so that if I have questions, I can write them down and bring them. But to have the auditor stand up here and talk about the audit and the management letter all in one piece, and then everybody here is not taking in 100% of what he's saying. There's no way. Research will tell you that. There's no way. And so we're not doing just service to the citizens of the town when we're monitoring things if we're not getting all the information. And so I would like the audit committee maybe to have a discussion about including that management letter in the package that we get from the auditor to review prior to the auditor coming to give their oral report.
Thank you, Counselor Maxwell. And Mayor Snow, did you wish to respond in any sort of way where Counselor Maxwell directed this through the chair?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I agree with Councillor Maxwell. It has been shown that we really only retain 20% of what we're told, and getting the full package in most cases would not be problematic. However, I will clearly state, and this has not been practice, is that there may at some times at committee level be the need to take the management letter into an in-camera. However, it has been pointed out by the solicitor, this letter did not go in camera. And therefore, based on that, it actually is an open letter. However, I go back to where I was going with this, is that if there is something in that letter that shows a weakness in our system that has not been corrected at the time that we come to council, that letter cannot be made public. Because in this day and age, the bad guys are looking for every which way to get into your system. And if we show that we have an operational weakness with our system, it may be a way for somebody to get into our system. So I will just put that out there. I think that what has come of this is that the entire municipal world has to look closer at how we do audits and how that information comes to council and the depth that it comes to council. You know, there may be a case for our auditor to actually pre-brief council so that if there is anything that we don't want, that's a weakness in our system that hasn't been corrected, that we don't want public, that all of council knows that is there. However, you know, I think what we really have to look at is that we had a good audit, and you know, all of that came out, and the weakness in our system was the fact that something wasn't being done, because that's just the way it was. But now with the change, it's being done, and it follows our policies.
Great, thank you. Councilor Maxwell.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. If there's something that needs to go in camera with the management letter, I have no problem with that. We have private folders that such information can be put into, and so when I get the auditor's report for review, if there is something that I need to review, it could be put in that private folder, and then those questions could go in camera when we're discussing.
Agreed.
Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Maxwell. Councillor Zabian, I know your light is not lit. You're fine with that? Okay, great. All right. Next, so thank you for that discussion. It was very helpful. I hope it was very helpful. I think it was very helpful. Correspondence. There is no correspondence. I do not have any correspondence. Public comments. We are at the public comment section of the meeting. And citizens are invited to make comment to council on a matter that's before council. Please state your name and address, and your comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Thank you very much. So.
Good evening, Dennis Keogh, 29 Alicia Boulevard, Kentville. I heard the discussion on the management letter. So what I'm hearing is the issue has been resolved, so now there's no reason, when I send a FOIPOP to the town tomorrow, that I do not receive a copy of that management letter. And if there is some reason that you guys decide you're not releasing that letter, then what you told us here tonight is not the truth. Because that would be the only reason. You've resolved it. I'm talking, I'm speaking. This is not a point of order. This is not a point of order. I am not a counselor.
Mr.
You don't
Kehoe.
have the ability to interrupt the 3-minute presentation.
Madam Chair?
Mr. Kehoe, a member of council has called a point of order, and I have to hear that point of order. Sorry.
It's a point of personal privilege.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Madam Chair, the man just expressed that I am potentially lying if he can't get a hold of that document under FOIPOP. Under Nova Scotia law, I'm entitled to a workplace free of intimidation, belittling, or humiliation affecting my reputation. The words and actions of this speaker are unwelcome by me in my workplace.
Thank you, Mayor Snow.
Respond to that?
No, Mr. Kehoe, we have a code of conduct here, and I'm going to ask you to respect the code of conduct. And
I don't believe I
please-
said what she said, she accused me of. Could you rerun the tape? I didn't say anything about accusing. I did not accuse her of anything. And
Mr.
she took
Mr.
personal offense.
Mr. Kehoe.
So how could she?
What I'm asking you to do.
Could
is
you
just- is
go
just
back and
keep
check
your-
with-
Keep
check-
your comments respectful. She called a point of privilege. I heard the point of privilege. We have a code of conduct. I would just ask that you would adhere to our code of conduct, if you'd
Thank you.
like you to continue.
Thank you. Now, can I continue?
You can go ahead, yes.
Okay,
certainly.
I'll go back to what I said. I'm going to issue a FOIPOP. And if, as the conversation was laid out here tonight, you've resolved the weakness, then there's no reason to keep that management letter from the public. I will be submitting that FOIPOP tomorrow. All I said was, if you still refuse, then something is not altogether here. That's all I said. I didn't accuse any specific councillor of speaking a mistruth. The mayor spoke out of turn, and I take exception, to her point of order. Thank you. Good night.
Mr. Kehoe, thank you. Is there anybody else from the public that, yes, please, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Council, for allowing us to speak this evening. And my name is Ahmed Nasrat. I'm actually from the Wolfville community, but part of the executive committee of our mosque, representing many of our families here in Kentville, as well as students at NSCC. I want to start off by thanking you all for passing that motion today. It means a lot to us. It means a lot to the community. Beyond here, that motion can save lives. Comments were made that it's just a letter. It really is more than a letter. We've sent letters. We've seen our federal government position change over the last month because of municipal leaders, unions, and other public figures sending those letters. So it is really more than a letter. It might not make a difference, but at least we can say we've tried. On top of that, it gives our community a sense of ease. Writing a letter to ask for a ceasefire is calling for peace. It's not being one side or the other. It's not being Palestinian or Israeli. It's calling for peace. I had a whole script today, but I'm just winging it right now. But it really is a matter of telling our community that we are all here saying enough of death, enough of 160 kids, babies a day. The truce ends today. They had a 4-day truce, for those who are not following the media. It ends today. They extended it 2 more days. The only reason is because the world is speaking. 2 European Union governments this weekend have spoke, Belgium and Spain, and said we want a ceasefire. I came to Canada I'm originally Egyptian, I'm a Canadian citizen. I came to Canada in 2004 because Canada is a home for peace. And I'm upset to hear that my Prime Minister can't speak up and say, I want to see peace. He says, I want to see stuff stop, and let's stop it, but it doesn't matter how long it takes because the toll doesn't matter. It's all just collateral damage. So what we're doing today matters. We want to thank you for that. I want to thank you on behalf of our community. And really, I look forward to seeing this letter from the mayor and hopefully seeing an impact to continue to push our federal government to change their position. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So, oh, sir.
Good evening, Mark Rogers. You know where I live. Frankly, I have a little bit of an issue telling you where I live because this is broadcast and maybe something I say somebody could have issue with, but everybody knows Mark Rogers. First off, I came here tonight with nothing to say, and I found myself so moved that I want to thank the community for coming forward and so eloquently addressing the issue. I also want to let me back up. I want to suggest very strongly that it absolutely is my municipal council's, my town council's position to write the letter because you are representing us as citizens, you're representing the greater community, and in order to do that, sometimes you have to do something that is outside of your mandate. So I commend you, each and every one, for taking that stand. I stand here and I hear comments about taking certain matters into an in-camera session. But it occurs to me that people ran this term and previous on transparency and accountability. So I think we have a very fine line to walk when and there are reasons, there can be reasons why something needs to go in camera. But if this town and council is to be truly transparent, I think we need to watch that. I'm also going to, for a moment, address what's been the elephant in the room for a while, and that is, this is a workplace for many people. I take Sandra Snow's point in as much as that. However, when terms are tossed around like, well, you know what, this matter is petty, or this matter is BS, I take extreme exception to that. Bullying, harassment is not petty and is not BS. So I want my council to recognize that and to start to work together. The last thing I'm going to say before I sit down is the agenda tonight says there's no correspondence. But if there's no correspondence, how come 5 of you responded to the letter that I sent the day after the last meeting? I knew it wouldn't be posted. That's okay. I've got thick skin. That's not an issue. But if we're going to talk about transparency, maybe we could say, I don't know, Mark Rogers from Park Street wrote a letter. Rather than saying no correspondence, when maybe Sharon Kehoe writes a letter. Maybe when our friends from the community write a letter. No, there's correspondence. 5 of you responded. Thank you to those that did. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Frank Bezanson Harris. I live on Dale Street in Kentville. I wanted to acknowledge Councillor Maxwell's point, because it was a very valid point that to get a balanced perspective on the situation in Palestine. So myself, I am not from the Muslim community. I'm not from the Israeli community, but I am very much from this community. And my family has a long history in this community. In fact, I cannot think of a relative as we go back that did not live here. So we were settlers. And I think it's always important to recognize that, you know, we do those land acknowledgements, and there's a reason why we do that. And it's because of the things that our ancestors may have done or been blind to or ignored that happened here. I often think, too, of Remembrance Day, because it happened recently. We always talk about how we say never again, or at least we forget. And I think that in many ways, I've been disappointed in our government overall because of the fact that those words become hollow when we see something that we could at least take a verbal stand on, and a call out to the international community about, because we always say, oh, well, were we alive back at that point, we would have said something. So I think it's very important that we do write letters, and I myself have written letters. I've gone to rallies. I've researched. I've make sure I pay attention to, particularly to speak to Councillor Maxwell's point. It's really important that we get information from a side that's less biased. So I look to third-party humanitarian organizations predominantly for information. And something that I think we need to recognize, as much as the horrors that happened on the early October, that didn't happen in a vacuum. And I think that's something that we keep missing. We keep saying, oh, we are opposed to what took place. But we're talking about something that is a long occupation and something that's had a long history and a lot of things that have led up to it. For example, the fact that year after year, a minimum of 700 children are abducted by the IDF, who are Palestinian children held captive without any actual legal justification for that. And according to actually human rights organizations in Israel themselves, they do suffer physical abuses that I won't get into. So that's from the Israeli run organizations, the humanitarian organizations themselves. Over 40 resolutions have been passed by the United Nations Human Rights Council, 45 actually in total, against the actions of Israel since 2013, I think it is, and all of which have been vetoed by the US, which we understand the complexities there. 28 resolutions, the United Nations Security Council has also recognized that Israel is violated. So there is a reason for why ceasefire is so important in the language we use here. We continuously see Israel violate what we consider international law. The amount of bombs that have been dropped on a population there has actually already outdone the devastation of Hiroshima. So just take that into consideration when we talk about nuclear bombs, the sheer volume of bombs that have been dropped on a predominantly civilian population. The median age of those who have died is 5 years old. That population of Gaza, regardless of one's feelings on Hamas in general, didn't vote for Hamas. They didn't get that option. They're too young. I think it's also important to recognize we were silent in 2018 to 2019 when the March Home happened, which was a peaceful protest Gazans orchestrated, unarmed, and over 200 of them were killed, shot by IDF soldiers, 45, I think, of which were children, and no one did anything. So for me, as a citizen of this community, as a citizen of Canada who was involved with setting up the UN, and we continue seeing it being relatively an impotent force at making much happen to change the world, but it still was a great idea, and I believe in it. I think it's important that we, as those who have had the settler privilege and recognize the horrors that have happened in the past, say that perhaps an apartheid state is something that we will not accept any longer. To say that perhaps the concept that we believe in, which gives me the opportunity as someone who is I'm not, as I said, a Muslim, I'm not a Christian, I'm not a Jew, but in our country, we have the option of being a multicultural country that's a democratic country, while we're watching what's happening there, which is the formation of an ethno-theocratic state, an apartheid state. So for me, the calling for a ceasefire isn't choosing a side at all. It's simply choosing that we can no longer allow reckless violence to happen to a captive population. And that as we move forward, we need to find ways to find reconciliation of some kind there, much as we have said we want to do here. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor, members of council, my name is Issam Kadri. I'm not a resident of Kentville, but I am a taxpayer in Kentville. So I guess that gives me some reason to talk. I want to thank you very much for passing the resolution that you did. It's very, very important for people to take a stand for peace. And this war is not only very destructive for not only the Palestinians, but also for the Israelis. In terms of attitudes and in terms of, the best recruiter for Hamas right now is the IDF. And Canada has troops in the area. The Russians have their navy in the area. They have troops in Syria. And the Americans have their fleet, and they're just sent another 17,000 troops there. If this war spreads, we could have a nuclear war. We could have a third world war. And not to mention the Chinese have 5,000 troops in Syria. So, and they have their navy there too. So asking for a ceasefire is the only thing that Canada should be asking for. And I think Canada's moving in that direction very slow, very, very quickly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak?
Hi, my name is Shaima Badawa. I am a first-year university student. I'm also part of the Muslim Women Committee here in the Valley. And I'm here to speak on behalf of one of our community member here in the Valley. She's a Palestinian lady, a mother of 4 children. She couldn't join us today, but I hope to deliver her voice as she has the first-hand experience and the collective suffering of innocent people. She said, living in the valley does not shield me from the pain of my relatives come to the horror of genocide and the struggle to survive in the face of collective punishment. Her parents' house has been bombed by Israeli airstrikes, and the neighborhood has been flattened on the head of people who were living in Rafah in South Gaza, without pre-notification, which is supposed to be the safe area that Israeli directed Palestinian fleeing to. She lost tens of her family members, including innocent children in the attack, who are part of thousands innocent civilians who have been killed within the last 7 weeks. And most survivors are suffering from severe injuries or infection and facing severe human crisis due to the siege on Gaza. She lost more relatives when Israeli bombed Al-Shifa Hospital and Al-Kuwait School. Those innocent civilians left their house in northern Gaza running from death, seeking shelter in the most safe place for people, which should be the shield of human rights. But Israel trashed all human rights and international laws. Gaza faced not only the loss of lives, but the destruction of homes and livelihoods. Family displaced and community erased. The scale of this crisis extends beyond immediate casualties to the broader impact on the society. Houses, hospitals, schools, playgrounds, churches, and mosques who have been bombed in Gaza, neglecting the international law of war. The international response to this crisis is a decisive indicator to our commitment to human rights and justice, and international humanitarian law must be upheld. The death toll and destruction demand unwavering commitment for a ceasefire. And I know some of you said that calling for a ceasefire would not affect it. It will. It's like saying one person won't affect anything. But if we all gathered as a community, as people, we will have an effect. We are here. I'm a Canadian citizen, and I am affected by what's going on outside of Canada. I'm from Syria. I lived in Syria through the war for 1 year. I was 7, 8 years old, and I got burned, third degree burned. And I still have the scar on my hand. I'm still affected by it. And I was treated without anesthesia or anything, and it was all because of the war. I still have the scar on my hand. Now imagine people, not just a third degree burn. It's more than that. People have their arm in the street, leg, eyes, all different stuff that you can think of. Imagine this stuff happening to your kids, to your parents, to your loved ones. We should all gather as a community and really work on our response. History will judge us, will judge our response. And please do as much as you can to acknowledge on what's going on in Palestine. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Hasnain. I'm currently in the 7th grade at KCA, and I have a passion for learning about geography and history. Since 2000, approximately 12,000 children have been subjected to imprisonment. This means that an average of 500 children are sent to prison every year, equivalent to an entire school of children. Now imagine being a parent of these Palestinian kids and experiencing the unbearable realization that your children are being taken away, unsure of their safety. On October 7th, following an attack by Hamas on Israeli citizens, the Israeli government initiated collective punishment against the innocent people of Gaza. They did this by cutting off water supply, food supply, power, and fuel. They attacked several hospitals and withheld life-saving medicines, including painkillers and anesthesia. These actions have had a profound impact on numerous Palestinian people and children. It is concerning when countries like Canada, which advocate for human rights worldwide, align themselves with Israel despite their war crimes stated by UN, human rights, and other international organizations. It is crucial to acknowledge the circumstances of these families and consider the profound impact of the situation on them. We cannot afford to wait any longer. 6,000 children have died since October 7th. 1 child dies every 10 minutes. This means if we wait even one more day, 150 kids will die whom we could have saved. Within a month, the population of Kenfil would have died in Palestine. We must end this war now to prevent further deaths and suffering. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Lubna, and I'm a mom of 4 kids. Hasnain is one of them. And believe me, he wrote that every single word by himself. Yeah. I live in Kentville, and I'm a part of the Muslim women community. I really appreciate for passing the motion. I had a long thing to say, but really appreciate every single word coming from York. It was really, really appreciated. And I know some of the comments were that these council or the letters sent from here won't make a difference, but I am telling you, it does make a difference. It will make a difference. The difference starts from one person, and as a council, we can make a huge difference. I was here to urge the council to support the call for a ceasefire because, as a mom, I'm deeply concerned about the innocent lives of children lost in Palestine. I have watched how Israeli forces are targeting the innocent civilian of Gaza. More than 4,000 kids are killed just in the last 3 weeks in Gaza. These kids are not just a number. They had names. They had dreams. They had people who loved them deeply, and they had families who cared for them. From Gaza Ministry of Health, there are so many children's orphans, so many fathers carrying dead bodies of infants, so many mothers will never get to hug or hold their children again. The New York Times is calling Gaza a graveyard for children. Over 14,000 have now been killed in this genocide. These children are not collateral damage. These children are not worthless casualties. These children are as precious as any innocent children. They don't just deserve to not die, but they deserve to live free. I'm sorry, I get really emotional by talking about Gaza, but as we continue to demand a ceasefire and fight for a future where everyone is free and equal and safe, we refuse to forget those lives. Every single one of these deaths were preventable. I urge you to stand for what is right and call for a ceasefire, as you did, so thank you so much for that. I do want to read a letter from a friend, Johanna, who couldn't make it. So if you guys allow me, please. Johanna said, I am a Kentville resident. I'm a mother of 3 children, a local artist and educator. I'm writing to you to express my grave concern for the dire humanitarian crisis in Gaza. I have been following along and have watched in horror as I have seen children, babies, and families injured and killed by the retaliation from the Israeli military. The humanitarian aid that is trickling into those in need is not enough. Refugee camps and safe 6 paths are being targeted, as well as hospitals. What is happening is nothing short of war crimes. As a mother, artist, and educator, I will never be okay with children being murdered, and I think no one are, in the name of collateral damage. This must be stopped. I urge you to stand for what is right and call for a ceasefire in this horrifying situation between Israel and Palestine. I would like a response from you as to where you stand in this matter. I will remember your response when it comes to voting time. Thank you, Johanna Rosalind. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Saeed Akonde. I speak before you today both as a concerned member of this community and as the president of the Muslim student at Acadia University. I'm representing a community that is deeply concerned about the ongoing crisis in Gaza and the West Bank. I have many things I've written down, but they've spoken about what happened. But one thing I would like to say is that the rising tension globally have not spared our community here. We have witnessed the heartbreaking incident of a 6-year-old boy, Palestinian-American boy, that was stabbed 26 times by a 71-year-old man in the United States. And also, as Joe Rafi said, 3 Palestinian-American students were shot yesterday. These incidents are not just statistics. They are a stark reminder of the real and immediate impact that geopolitical tension can have on the lives of individuals. As a community, it is imperative that we join our voices to call upon our Prime Minister to advocate for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza. It is not enough to settle for a temporary pause. We need a sustainable solution that ensures the safety and well-being of all those affected. Moreover, let us stand together in condemning acts of violence and hatred here at home. The incidents involving our fellow Muslim and non-Muslim citizens are deeply troubling, and we must work together collectively to foster an environment of understanding, tolerance, and support. I want us to know that one day in future, our great-grandchildren will see us as ancestors of speaking the truth. Speaking the truth, taking acts on justice and peace. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Sham Badawa. I'm from Syria, and I lived through the war for 1 year in Syria, and I don't remember anything from it, but I remember, absolutely nothing. And when, I'm sure with, a bomb came or something, I have, somewhere to run to. I have a safe place to run to. There was, the bathroom was the safest place to run to. And I have, arms to go to hide, but, now in Palestine, there's a lot of kids have lost their parents. They have nowhere to run to. They have no one to hug them. They have no one to tell them their pain. And there's I remember that one thing. There's a daughter was born under the rubbers. She had no one to take care of her. She was alone. She was barely 1 day left. She was not even 1 hour old, and her parents died. She died, she passed away, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone that came out tonight, and thank you for all the public comments. And our hearts and our prayers are with you, so thank you. We have some in-camera items that we have to go into a closed session, so thank you.